Welcome back to the Lords of Lore podcast. I'm Matt,
I'm well.
and today we're going to talk about the Rings of Power. Now, you may have seen us talk about the Rings of Power before in the teaser trailers or set photos. So far, the three of us, including Luca, who can't be with us here today, we've not been so hot on this series. In our last thing when we talked about this, we said we're expecting this to maybe be pretty bad. Or at least we're not sure if we're going to be able to buy into a Tolkien verse that's not a Peter Jackson aesthetic. So, Will, after seeing this new main teaser trailer, where are your thoughts now?
Uh I think maybe just a little bit better because it does look like this, I guess, teaser trailer number two looks a lot better than the first one, like visually. And that was
Mhm.
kind of the big thing that I got out of it. I mean, a lot of it is like CGI and stuff, but my concern when I was watching it was all I could think of is like basically all of our other rants regarding like Disney, like with Star Wars and like how a production studio could just throw like insane amounts of money at it
Right.
despite it like the story and narrative just like not making sense, but at least it looks
Yeah.
good. And like it gets
Yes.
trailers which gets likes and views on their social media and stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah.
what
Um,
what did you think about like the overall look of it?
yeah, the aesthetic I actually liked more in this main teaser than I have in any subsequent or previous uh things that have come out for it. For me previously, like the costuming and stuff was so different, and I'm sure that's intentional. They want to establish this is not a Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings thing, but at the same time it felt jarring because like that is the aesthetic, and that aesthetic from those films have become so iconic that they're really, you know, up there in terms of aesthetic with just Tolkien in general. Like that's what you associate with it. So it's
Yeah.
weird to deviate from that. But it looks good. And the thing that stuck out to me was that if this wasn't branded as a Lord of the Rings thing, I would check it out and be excited for it just as a fantasy project, like high budget fantasy. So I'm going into it like with that in mind, that I'm not letting the fact that it's not a Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings thing. And I hate the Hobbit film, so it's not just that Peter Jackson can do no wrong to me, but you know, it's I don't know, the Lord of the Rings aesthetic was in my mind, but this looks good. It looks great. The CGI, all the things you're saying, all the sets, they look awesome. Um, it's just going to be a matter of like telling myself that it doesn't need to feel like it's part of that world, because Tolkien can be like all encompassing. What were your thoughts watching this teaser on what the story might be?
That's kind of where my issue is. And like I remember like when we first heard about, or like when I first heard about, actually I think you told me about it, like how they were making this TV show, and like and he said like second age, and I was like, I don't know, but like hopefully like there would just be new characters, but like with this trailer we see that Galadriel, young-ish Galadriel, is a lot
Mhm.
more involved, which I'm not really big on, just because I think her character was just like knocked out of the park like in the original trilogy. And so
Right,
it's kind of like, why revisit that, because like you'll never ever be able to top like that performance, right?
right.
So that's kind of like my biggest issue thus far. And like I was kind of surprised actually how they, this sounds very weird, but I was kind of like shocked with the inclusion of like the halflings and the dwarves.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
So
like I was kind of confused because they don't really play that big of a role in the second age. Like if, it's been about 2 years since I read the Silmarillion, and like it's just I don't ever recall them like really being a major part of the series. So it's kind of like that final shot towards the end of the trailer, we see like the group of hobbits like walking down some path, and I was like, that looks cool. Like it's hobbits, everybody knows what a hobbit is because of Peter Jackson's movies.
yeah,
But like there's like I want to see like these large scale like fantastical battles between like the elves as well as like this islands of Numenorians, which are like superhumans, really.
Yeah.
So like I like that's what I like. Second Age is like that's what all it's about, and like I was kind of hoping that like we don't just stray too far from that.
Yeah. I noticed that too because it's one of the halflings that's narrating the trailer at a certain
Mhm.
point. Or maybe not the trailer, but the first bit. Elves have the forest, men have their fields, dwarves have their mines, we have each other. That line. We're Harfoots. So I had to look up what that meant. But they're just like a cousin race, I guess, to hobbits. Like they are hobbits, but they're like, different than the ones we have seen on screen before. Which eventually they end up settling um uh I don't know, somewhere closer to where we know. I think they become like maybe the Brandy Bucks or something, or no, I think they settle in Bree, so whatever that means for hobbits. Um, but it's pretty close to the Shire and stuff. So um yeah, I'm confused by it. In that last shot you're talking about where we see the hobbits like cameras to the back of them and they're walking away. That is the one scene that gave me pause about the whole show from this trailer, is that I feel like, okay, the producers and showrunners of this show want to be like, we want to establish our own take on the Lord of the Rings. So then to do something like you say in the Second Age that doesn't involve these types of characters
Yeah.
and to kind of put them in feels like, okay, we know that a successful Lord of the Rings story is told with hobbits, men out. Like it's like they feel like people won't recognize it if we don't have a hobbit presence in there, and I feel like that might be a bit of a mistake if they're altering the source material.
Yeah, and like I just want to add to that just for clarification. Like the reason why like I expect it to be of like the story focused around this island of Numenor is because the island of Numenor is like basically like Tolkien's version of Atlantis. It's
Yeah.
basically because like the world is kind of flattish, sort of in in uh in like in Middle Earth, like
Vulcan
not really.
flat earther confirmed.
Yeah. So like the further west you go, that's basically you arrive at some island that is essentially like heaven, sort of. I guess it's more like the Elder Scrolls, how like depending on which way you go horizontally, you go back in time or forward in time.
Oh shit, okay.
Oh, that's a whole other story. But anyways, like the Numenor is so special because like that was granted as like a reward for the men who like helped fight on the side of like good,
Right.
like during the First Age, during the War of Wrath. So it was a reward because like they're all like superhuman genetics, like they're all like vastly taller, like average height is like 7 feet tall.
And for
Like
maybe I guess
strong
like the
dude.
casual fan out there, like Aragorn in the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings story is a descendant of this race. Specifically, one half, like they're split into two factions, right? The Numenor, and
The
one is the Dunedain. Is that right?
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's so because like spoilies, but
yeah.
still bring
Beware of
it up.
spoilers because this might be what this story deals with. But
Just like how I said it was Atlantis, because like how Atlantis falls in our mythology, so does Numenor. But and that's because of like corruption and stuff like that, which I really hope that this story touches on, because that's what
it
makes it.
seems to be, because there's that scene where I'm not sure what's his name, the elf guy who's talking to Galadriel.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
speculating that's going to be like that great elven hero guy, right? Name slipping my mind. But when she's referencing like, you haven't seen the things that I've seen, then there's a quick cut to this scene where it looks like we're seeing the Eye of Sauron, yeah, the distance, or
Yeah.
at least some sort of presence. And then we're seeing all these men who are appearingly floating underwater, dead.
And
Uh,
also and also like when we see the men, like that whole like line of like dudes like carrying torches and stuff like that,
mhm.
because again spoilers, Numenor kind of just tears itself apart and stuff, but yeah, so like the people who left before, who were like, this is not how things should be, and our civilization's falling apart and our culture and stuff, so they leave, and that's what goes on to form like Arnor and Gondor and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's what Aragon and Elendil and Isildur, that's where they all come from.
Right.
But
But yeah, no. What did you think of this shot though of all these men kind of underwater dead with the eye sort of in the background, making the water seem like red?
I I hope it's like as a result of like a conflict that we actually see, and it's not just some sort of like dreamscape or like weird vision or something. Like to me, that would be a little
Hmm.
bit of a cop out. But just because of like the inclusion of these characters that we don't really know about, like with the Hardfoots and stuff, it's kind of like that's what I'm assuming that's where they're gonna go with the first season. Is I don't know. It's just like weird. Like it's kind of like why wouldn't you just focus on somebody, just a random person in Numenor or something,
Hmm.
as opposed to like jumping to Galadriel, which I assume just because she gets name dropped and we see her so many times in the trailer that she'll be a major part of it.
Yeah, it seems to be that they're focusing her as like the lead, or that at least there's going to be the perspective from the Harfoots, and there's going to be a lead character there, and then one of the elves. It didn't seem like we got a lot of dwarves in this trailer, just kind of their relationships to other people. We
Mhm.
see one man speak in this trailer, um, and for the most part, we don't really get a lot from them. So it seems like we're going to center on elves and halflings here, and Galadriel will be our lead in the elven aspect of that. I don't know. I think I agree with you in like I feel like Galadriel was so well done in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings that um, any sort of deviation from that character and how that role sort of plays out in those films, I think will be walking some tightrope where, if it goes poorly and changes how we see that character in those films, I think that will probably be a misstep. But I'm excited at this current time. I'm pretty excited to actually see how this is all going to unfold and the way they try to tell this story. Because again, like we were saying, like the visuals look incredible, but I'm like I'm a little bit hesitant on the halfling sort of aspect, especially when they weren't really part of this story in this time.
Yeah, and I do you think that like these characters will like meet up? Like, or do you think it's gonna be like how like kind of like the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones where it's like multiple just storylines going on at the same time ish.
Yeah, I think if they're going to meet up, it's going to be towards the end of the season.
Mhm.
I don't think it'll be like all these people know each other. I think it's really going to be the relationship of like, okay, establish who the elves are and then see how they interact with men. Like I think the dialogue we're getting in that first scene where that Harfoot person is explaining people's relationships to the world, I think that's going to be our starting point. I think that's intentionally chosen here as the line to open this trailer with because it's going to be we're going to first start off with being like, here's the elves, and this is how they live, and this is how they feel about these people. And then when shit starts hitting the fan, then we're going to kind of get to see why these people are butting heads and stuff.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. I also like I have a feeling that like Numenor might not be revealed until like the end. Like I could see season one just being solely about like this group of hardfoot travelers as well. But I'm
Mhm.
assuming they're traveling towards like the Shire or something. Um
Yeah, it looked
and
for a
like
second like their home was being destroyed, and
yeah.
that's why they're sort of on a pilgrimage or something, maybe heading towards Bree, where they finally end up.
Yeah, and like that's what I kind of thought like that with that shot of them walking down this pathway or road or whatever.
Mhm.
Like it kind of seemed like because like Bree and all of that was all a part of the kingdom of Arnor, and then the Shire was basically just like the suburbs. Um, so that's how like I wondered maybe they're just on their way to go like meet up with these people from Numenor that are kind of settling into that region.
Right. Yeah.
Because like that's more so like along the coast of where they're at. So like where the Grey Havens are and stuff, and that's largely uninhabited if I remember at this time. So like I wonder if we'll just have like Galadriel on some sort of like conspiracy mission, freaking out and having these weird visions, and then we just have a group of prehistoric hobbits hanging
Yeah.
out, moving
Yeah.
around.
But yeah, I would say overall, by this main teaser, I am 100% more interested in this series than I was from the previous ones. I think if that was all I had to go off of, I probably wouldn't be that excited. Still planned on watching it, but maybe it's something I let slide and see how the reviews are before I dive in. But now I'm kind of, opening night or whenever this drops, September 2nd, I believe. I'm gonna check out this first episode and see what's up. Where are you in that frame?
I'll probably watch it. Definitely. I am a little bit more interested. I just hope that they kind of like Amazon kind of learned its lesson a bit with Wheel of Time and just kind of figure out their pacing with the show.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know. Yeah, I'll watch it opening night. I'll just be kind of just out of like curiosity now from the trailer. But I mean, I'll be honest, before I was just kind of like meh.
Yeah, exactly.
Just freaking out in the comments.
Yeah.
Not my Tolkien.
uh, Anyways, I guess that's where we'll leave it for today. We'll be back with maybe not any subsequent trailers that come out of this show, but when this first episode comes back, you can check back in here and see if we've done a review for that. Probably will. Yeah. But as always, I am Matt.
I'm Will.
And we are the Lords of Lore.